Every action movie, every romantic comedy, every prestige drama you have ever watched follows a structural blueprint written down by one man roughly 2,350 years ago, in a short treatise most people have never read. His name was Aristotle, and understanding his mind means understanding one of history's most consequential father-son intellectual ruptures his break from his own teacher, Plato. Aristotle was born in 384 BC in Stagira, a small town in northern Greece, the son of Nicomachus, who served as court physician to the king of Macedon. This detail matters more than it might seem. Growing up in a household oriented around medicine likely exposed young Aristotle early to careful observation, classification, and empirical method, the habit of looking closely at the physical world and cataloging what you see, rather than reasoning purely from abstract first principles. Both of his parents died while he was still young, and he was raised by a guardian, a circumstance that pushed him, at around age 17, toward Athens and the most famous school in the Greek world, Plato's Academy. Aristotle spent roughly 20 years at the Academy, first as a student and eventually as a respected teacher within it. Deeply immersed in Plato's philosophy, a system built around the idea of transcendent, perfect forms existing beyond the physical world, of which everyday objects were only imperfect copies. For 2 decades, Aristotle worked inside this framework, absorbing it fully enough to become one of its most capable practitioners. But after Plato's death in 347 BC, Aristotle did not inherit leadership of the Academy, and shortly after, he left Athens altogether. Over time, his own philosophical system diverged sharply from his teachers, where Plato prioritized abstract, otherworldly forms as the true reality. Aristotle increasingly insisted that the physical, observable world itself was where truth needed to be discovered through direct observation, categorization, and empirical analysis of nature, biology, physics, ethics, and eventually drama. This is the essential creative turn in Aristotle's story, rejecting his mentor's core metaphysical framework not through rebellion for its own sake, but by systematically applying an entirely different method observation over pure abstraction across nearly every field of knowledge that existed in his era. He tutored the young Alexander the Great for several years at the Macedonian court before eventually returning to Athens to found his own school, the Lyceum, deliberately positioned as an intellectual counterpoint to his old teacher's academy. Aristotle's mind operated like a vast, obsessive taxonomy engine. His surviving works cover biology, physics, astronomy, logic, ethics, politics, rhetoric, and poetics, an almost unimaginable range for a single person, all approached with the same underlying method: observe carefully, classify precisely, then derive general principles from the specific cases. This suggests a personality driven less by singular inspiration and more by comprehensive, systematic completeness and intolerance for leaving any domain of knowledge unmapped. His work on drama, the Poetics, written around 335 BC, is the piece most directly relevant to creative history. In it, he analyzed what made Sophocles' tragedy Oedipus Rex effective, and from that analysis derived the first formal theory of dramatic structure in the Western tradition, concepts like catharsis, the reversal of fortune, and the recognition scene. Ideas still taught, functionally unchanged, in modern screenwriting courses. One of the more striking personality details preserved in later accounts is Aristotle's evident concern with personal appearance, and physical vanity descriptions mention him dressing carefully, wearing rings, and keeping a notably groomed appearance, in contrast to the more austere presentation associated with philosophers like Socrates. Whether this reflects genuine vanity or simply reflects his relatively privileged background as a physician's son and royal tutor, it's a distinctive, almost surprising human detail inside an otherwise famously rigorous, dispassionate intellectual legacy. His deeper insecurity, if it can be called that, seems to have been a persistent need to be comprehensively right, to leave no observable phenomenon unexplained, no domain of knowledge untouched by his method. This drove extraordinary productivity, but also meant some of his conclusions, particularly in the physical sciences, were confidently wrong by later standards, having been derived from limited observation rather than experiment in the modern sense, a genuine cost of moving fast across so many fields with the tools available at the time. Aristotle split from Plato's framework, and his tutoring of Alexander the Great placed him at the center of enormous political and intellectual power, but it also came with real risk. After Alexander's death in 323 BC, anti-Macedonian sentiment in Athens turned dangerous for anyone associated with Alexander's regime. And Aristotle, fearing execution on charges of impiety, reportedly remarking he did not want Athens to sin twice against philosophy. A reference to Socrates' execution decades earlier, fled the city for Chalcis, where he died the following year. Aristotle died in 322 BC. In exile from the city where he had spent most of his intellectual life, driven out by the same kind of political hostility that had killed Socrates 2 generations before him. His works were nearly lost to history more than once, reportedly surviving through a chain of private ownership before being rediscovered and edited centuries later, meaning the foundational texts of Western science and literary theory very narrowly avoided complete disappearance. His legacy, ultimately, is structural rather than stylistic. He gave nearly every subsequent field of Western inquiry biology, logic, ethics, political science, and storytelling itself its first systematic framework, built by breaking decisively from his own teacher's worldview and trusting careful observation of the real world over abstract theorizing alone.
The video is ending. The decision to subscribe takes less time than this sentence. Do it now.